DreAllDay.com.
So it's 3 things that you need to get rid of procrastination. And before I get into those 3 things, first of all, let's just talk about what procrastination is. Everybody has dealt with it. I get asked about this all the time. If you watch me for the first time right now, please swipe to the right and hit the share button and share this on your Facebook or your Twitter, whatever you want. Follow me if you're not already following me, because this is a normal thing. This is not a once-in-a-lifetime thing. I do this every day, usually more than once. So make sure you follow me so you catch everything that I put out. Now, get back to the topic. People always ask me about procrastination. Like, Dre, how do you avoid procrastination? How do you get motivated to take care of the things you actually need to take care of? Because we all know that we have certain things that we actually need to get done, right? But then a day goes by, or a week or a month goes by, a year goes by. We like, damn. Why did I never do that thing that I knew I needed to get done? I woke up this morning knowing that I needed to do that, and here I am going to sleep, and I still didn't do it. Or I knew I needed to do that this month, and here we are at the end of the month, and I didn't do it. Or I knew I had to study for that test, write that research paper, make those phone calls for my business, and here it is, the end of the day, the end of the week, end of the month, and I didn't do it. What's my problem? How can I avoid procrastination? That's what a lot of people ask me. So the first thing I got to tell you is we got to change around the ask. There's one thing that I talk about all the time. We talk about the mental side of sports, the mental side of business, the mental side of life. The first thing you had to do is start giving your mind better instructions. Because when you ask your mind a negatively framed question, all you're going to do is tell your mind to give you more of that negativity. So, for example, if you're a person who gets afraid, you get fearful in certain situations, ask not to your mind, how do I stop being afraid? Or how do I stop being negative? Or how do I stop procrastinating? Don't ask your mind, how do I stop the negative thing that you're trying to get rid of? Because when you ask your mind that, your mind does not understand that you're negating something. So when you say, how do I not? And then there's something negative, all your mind understands is directly the words that you're saying. So it doesn't understand, I want to not do these things. All it understands is what you said, and is going to deliver more of what you said. So you got to change around the way you're asking your mind questions, because your mind is super literal. It doesn't have the ability to like reason with your words. Whatever you tell it, it takes it exactly literal, exactly as you said it. So instead of saying, how do I avoid procrastination? The better question is, how do I get myself in the habit of taking action? How do I make myself go do the things I need to do immediately instead of wait until later? How do I make myself get energized and motivated and inspired right on the spot so I get things done as soon as I think about getting them done instead of taking them off till later? When you ask your mind that question, just think about that. Listen to what I'm saying, even as you're listening to me right now. When you start asking your mind questions like that, all of a sudden, if you're watching this right now, you're probably getting some ideas in your mind just based on the way I'm saying it. Like, oh, now that you say that, now you start thinking of ideas. Ideas start coming into your mind just from hearing me say that. So imagine how much more powerful it will be when you start saying it to yourself instead of me saying it to you. And if you start saying it to yourself all the time. So this is the first thing you got to understand. Whether we're talking about procrastination, fear, failure, whatever it is you're going through that you want to stop going through, don't ask yourself to stop going through it. You figure out what the positive one is, and then you start asking yourself for the positive form of that thing. So when we talk about procrastination, it's not how do I stop procrastinating? It's how do I get myself to blank, whatever it is you actually want. So whatever it is that's the opposite of procrastination for you, that's the question you got to start asking yourself. And here, there are 3 things that you need to do if you want to get out of the procrastination habit. Y'all ready for these 3 things? Let me know. Let me take a sip of water, and we're going to get right into it. I appreciate everybody that's tapping the screen with the hearts right now. Shout out to everybody watching on replay and everybody watching this on YouTube.com. Now, here we go. 3 things you need. Number 1 thing that you need to get rid of procrastination. Number 1 thing that you need is you must prioritize the things that you need to get done. Now, let me explain what I mean by that, by prioritizing, because all of you know what the word prioritize means. You all know what it means to prioritize things. So that's not brand new information, but it's the way that you prioritize that matters. So here's something that happens sometimes. Any of you ever look at your to-do list one day and you got like 30 things on your to-do list, or 10 or 15 things on your to-do list, and you're like, damn, I don't even know which one I'm going to do first. There's no way I could do all of these in one day. And then you end up kind of putting off doing anything because you got so many different things to do. Has that ever happened to anybody? You just got so many things on your to-do list. You looking at it and you like, I need to do that. Now you can't figure out which one to do first. You can't figure out which one to do last. And you know that they all need to get done. So you like, damn. And then what ends up happening is you spend so much time trying to figure out which one to do that you end up not even getting as much done as you could have got done. That's happened to y'all before? Okay. It's happened to me too. So this is what you need to do. First thing you got to do is prioritize what absolutely needs to get done. And I got this idea, not all of the idea, but Part of this idea came from this guy named Tim Ferriss. He wrote the book, The 4-Hour Work Week. You never heard of it, look it up. And one of the things that he says, I don't know, he got it from somebody else and then he shared it, but I got it from him. So he said, listen, this is what you need to do. No, you do not do everything in one day, man, Tyrone. If your list is 30 and you get 30 done, you might not be able to get 1,000 done. So lists is all different lists. So you know the thing is not to do them all in one day. Here's the thing. You have to ask yourself this question. Remember what I talked about at the beginning, asking yourself a better question, right? So here's the question you ask yourself. You say, self, what is the one thing or the 3 things or the 5 things? You choose the number, no more than 5. Usually no more than 3. I would actually say 3 is the best. No more than 1 or 3 or 5 things, at the most 5. What are the 5 things, self, that if I got them done today, this day would be a success? Let me repeat that statement. What is the, and you can fill in this blank with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever number you think you can handle. What are the 4 things that I can get done today that would make this day a success? So if you have a to-do list of 40 things, you look at that list and say, all right, what are the 2 things that if I did those today, that would completely make this day a complete success? I can go to sleep and say, you know what? I got those 2 things done. I'm making progress. I'm good. Or if it's 1 thing, you can say, what's the 1 thing that I could get done today? Or at the most, like I said, 5. If you're a superhuman and maybe there are 5 things that don't take a lot of time, you prioritize what those 5 things are. Prioritize 5, 4, 3, 2, or 1 thing every single day. That if you say, if I get this done, this group or this 1 thing, this day is a success. That's the number 1 thing, because what a lot of you will start to realize, if you look at your to-do list, if you got 20 things on your to-do list right now, if you look at it, you'll realize that most of them are not urgent and most of them are not priorities, because some people say, well, everything's a priority. Everything's not a priority. That's the exact opposite of priorities. Look at the definition of priority and you can see that everything can't be a priority at the exact same time. Oh, yes. Thank you, Bryce, for letting everybody know. If you do 500 hearts, for those of you tapping the screen, once you do 500 hearts, you got to leave and come back in order for the more hearts to count. All right. Somebody said the connection. Is the connection good? Are y'all able to see me, hear me? Is my voice messing up with my movements? Can you leave comments? Let me know if everything is good as far as the connection right now. Are we all right? All right. Thank you. Thank you. So this is all right. It says not great, but it's okay. All right. Well, I can't do nothing about it. It's Periscope. So listen, this is the thing, y'all. Number 1 point, prioritize what needs to get done. 1 to 5 things at the most. Either 1 thing, 2, 3, 4, or 5 things. Prioritize those 5 things. So the question might be now, well, what do you do? Let's say if your to-do list is 10 things and you prioritize 3, what do you do with the other 7? This is what you do. This is very important also. You create a separate list. All right, so every day, the last thing, you don't want to give your subconscious mind the idea that you got 20 things to do, because when you give your subconscious mind that type of load that is like 20 things to do, you're weighing your mind down. If you look at a list and you only see 3 things to get done, it's 8 o'clock in the morning, you like, oh, I got to do these 3 things. You like energized because you can do that. The human brain says, you know what, 3 things I can do. Now, if you give it a list of 20, you're like, I don't know. I might not get to all those. But if you give your brain a list of 3 things, remember, ask a better question. And this is a form of a question, because when you look at a to-do list, you're basically telling your brain, I need to do these things. Can I do it? Your thoughts are just a procession of questions and answers that you're asking and answering to yourself all day. So when you got a to-do list of 20, your brain says, can I do these? And then it answers yes or no. And if it's 20 things, it might say no. But if it's 3 things, it says, oh yeah, I could do those. Let's do this one, then this one, and this one. Done. That's the way that you energize your brain, by making it very simple what it has to get done. You don't want to give your brain too many instructions at the exact same time. So with the other things, so you got a list of 10, you prioritize 3. With the other 7, you create a separate list, like a I get around to it list, or whatever you want to call it, the next week list, or the free time list. When I'm done my priorities for the day, I go look at my free time list. If there's 100 things on there, let me pick one. Let me do this one now. Oh, I got time. Let me do this one too. I got a little bit more time. Let me knock this one out, because they're not priorities. So if you don't get them done today, it's all good. They don't happen this week, it's good. Now, every week or so, let's say, you can look at that list and say, all right, I need to move this one into the urgent list for tomorrow, so I actually make sure I get that one done, because it is some type of time frame on it. So understand, number 1, that not everything is a priority. You need to pick out what your priorities are, and you know your life, you know your situation. You prioritize your priorities. 1 to 5 things. Everything else on your list, anything else that pops up, anything that somebody asks you to do, any email you get, if it's not urgent, put it on the when I get around to it list, or whatever you want to title that list. The list of things that are not urgent, but that you do need to get them done eventually. All right, that's the number one thing. Here's the second thing that you need to do, and it kind of ties into number one. Don't give yourself too many choices. There's this parable that says there was a donkey that was really hungry and really thirsty. It was dying. It was going to die either of hunger or thirst. But it came to a point where it looked to his left and to his right. There was water 10 steps to the left. There was food 10 steps to the right. It couldn't decide which one to go to, and it ended up dying of hunger and thirst because it was standing right in the middle trying to decide which one to go to, the food or the water. Is our connection good here? I'm not sure the connection is good. I want to make sure. Y'all got to keep updating me as the connection is good. All right, connection is good? Okay. All right. Sometimes when I don't see comments, I'm just wondering if the connection is bad or if I'm just giving such great information. I just have a rapt audience. All right, so I guess it's the second one. All right, I appreciate that, everybody. So the second thing you have to do is not give yourself too many choices. And that's the thing that we're talking about with the priorities. It fits right into number one. All these things interrelate. So if you give yourself 20 things to get done in one day, you look at your to-do list at 9 o'clock in the morning, you like, damn, 20 things. Where do I start? And usually, you know what happens when you give somebody that many choices? What's up, Carmelita? I think that's what it said, Caramel. When you give yourself that many choices, usually the brain it stops. When you give a human being, any of you ever talk to somebody and they ask you for your opinion or what their options are, and you give them like 5 different options and they freeze and end up actually doing nothing because they got so many different choices, they get confused. Confused human beings do nothing. All right, that's a simple phrase, and that applies to ourselves. That applies to other people that you work with. Confused human beings do nothing. So when you're working with somebody, let's say if you're in sales and you're trying to sell somebody something and you got multiple products, don't show them 10 products. Show them 2 or 3 products and let them pick between those 3. Because when you give people too many options, they will do nothing. Any of you work in sales, you probably know what I'm talking about. You ever had that experience when you show somebody, like, let's say you got like 30 different things they can choose from to buy. They can't make a choice because there's too many options. And humans always talk about they want to have choices. I don't want to be restricted. I don't want nobody telling me what I can do. I want to have as many choices as possible. Human beings do not want as many choices as possible. They think they do, but when they get it, what they end up doing is nothing. So you got to narrow your choices. That means you're disciplining yourself by narrowing your choices. So instead of giving yourself 10 things to do, or which you can't pick one because it's too many choices, give yourself 3 things. Then you can pick which one to do first. Now you only got 2 things left. Now pick one between the 2. Now you only got 1 thing left. You ain't got no choice but to knock out that 1 thing. And how to knock out that 1 thing, we're going to get to in step number 3. So here's step number, just to recap so far. Step number 1, prioritize what matters. No more than 5 things per day. I don't care how busy you are, who you are, no more than 5 things per day. If you got a lot of things you need to get done in one day, buy yourself some time and hire an assistant, hire an employee, somebody who can knock out the stuff that you don't physically need to actually do yourself. And I'm going to come back to that point after I get through number 3. So number 1 is prioritize. No more than 5 things per day, and only do those 5. Move everything else to when I get around to it list. You got that? Here's number 2. Don't give yourself too many choices. Ties right into number 1. Human beings who are confused, who have too many options and too many choices, will do nothing. And that's what procrastination is. And here's step number 3. As far as knocking out procrastination, making yourself more of a person of action, is that word. Number 3, get into the habit of taking action. How does the habit of taking action work? It's very simple. When you think of something that you need to do it right there on the spot. When you think of something that you need to do it right there on the spot. So you think of somebody like, oh, you know what? Mike, I need to call him. Call Mike right there on the spot. Or text Mike, or do something. Call his phone and leave him a voicemail. Whatever you got to do, whenever you think of something that needs to get done, get in the habit of taking action immediately. Now, some of you might think, well, I'm kind of lazy. I'm not the person who always takes action. How do I get into that habit? This is how you do it. You have to consciously, what habits are, first of all, is something that you're unconsciously doing without thinking about it. So your thoughts are habitual. 95% of our thoughts and actions are habits. We just do them without even thinking about it. The way that we move, the way that we walk, talk, the way we move our hands when we're conversing with somebody else, where we go, the directions we drive, how we sit when we get in our car, all of that stuff is habitual. We don't think about it. The only way you can change a habit is to become conscious of it and start consciously thinking about it for a period of time until the subconscious mind accepts it and you start doing it without thinking about it. Everybody got that? That's the way you change a habit. You got to first be aware that you have the habit, Then you start consciously thinking of doing something different from the habit because you want to change it. Consciously think of doing something different from the habit, and then consciously think about it for a period of time until you start doing it without thinking about it. That is how you change a habit. That's 100% of the information how to change a habit. So if you want to get into the habit of action, so first of all, you got to understand that you want to change something. So what you do is, all right, you realize, all right, I want to get in the habit of making a phone call, calling somebody as soon as I think of it. All you got to do is, boom, call that person right there on the spot. So you got your phone. Everybody got their phone with them all the time. So get your phone out and boom, make that call right on the spot. Oh, I need to respond to that email. Open it right now and start typing a response to that email. Even if you can't think of what to say, once you start moving, your brain will start coming up with the words. Once you start taking action, your subconscious mind will start coming up with the fill into the blank of you don't even know how to do it. Like people say, you know, I want to do X, Y, Z, but I don't know how. I say, just go start. But they say, how can I start when I don't know how? I say, just go start. When you start, your brain will figure out the how once you started to take some action. Emotion comes from motion. So once you start getting into action, your brain will start delivering you what you need to keep going, because the human instinct, number one instinct of human beings is what? Survival. That's why all of us who's watching this has survived for 15 years, 17 years, 30 years, 50 years. However old you are, you have survived. You have 100% succeeded in surviving. So once you start taking some action, the brain will kick in that survival instinct to make sure that you can at least get somewhat through what you started. It will kick in. That's the survival instinct of the human brain. We're all hardwired for it. And if you don't believe me, you got proof you're alive, right? So you survived to this point, so you can survive again. So all you got to do is get into that action habit. So when you think of something, do it right now. If you got your habitual actions will be, you might be sitting on the couch watching TV and you like, you know what? I should get up and go put some food in the oven so I can eat in a half hour. But you just think about it. Your habit is to just sit there and think about it for another 5 minutes, for another 15 minutes and not do it. And then a half hour goes by. You're like, damn, I should have started cooking a half hour ago. I'd be eating right now. So the action habit means you're aware of that. You're aware of your habit of not doing things immediately. And as soon as you think about it, boom, go do it. Now you're changing the habit because you made it a conscious thought. Now here's the thing to the conscious changing habits thing. You got to think about this. You had to actually be thinking about it actively for about 21 straight days. That's what creates a habit. It takes 21 days of aware actions to create a habit, or aware thoughts. 21 days of awareness. So if you're trying to change any habit, you got to, for 21 straight days, be consciously thinking about the habit that you're changing. So let's say you never worked out. You never went to the gym. For 21 days straight, you got to consciously think about, you know what? I need to take out time to go to the gym. 21 days straight. When am I going to the gym? When am I going to the gym? When am I going to the gym? Now, for those of you who go to the gym all the time, you don't have to think about it, right? It's just a normal part of your routine. You like everything else fits around going to the gym. But for those who have never worked out, you don't work out a lot. Now you got to start carving out time, but it has to be a conscious habit, and you got to do it every single day. You got to be a conscious thought rather, which makes it a habit once you do it 21 days in a row. 21 days in a row, ladies and gentlemen. Not 21 days total, not 21 out of the month. 21 days in a row makes something a habit. Now, maybe you can't go to the gym. If you can't go to the gym, take a walk. You can't take a walk, go pull up youtube.com and follow a yoga workout on YouTube and do it in your bedroom, in your living room, in your hotel room, wherever you happen to be at, in the park. You got to get that action habit every single day. The action habit is the third step to killing procrastination. So here's number one, prioritize 1 to 5 things a day. Here's number 2, don't give yourself too many choices. Here's number 3, get into the habit of taking action. Now, going back to number 1, for those of you who may think you have too many priorities and not enough time to get them all done, buy yourself some time. Go hire somebody. You can hire a virtual assistant online for cheap from there. People who work from countries outside of the United States will work for very cheap and get done little clerical things that you don't actually have to do. Like things that you do, but you don't really have to do it. They don't require your talent, because most of us, there are only a few things per day that require our talent. For example, I can't hire somebody to make these videos for me. I have to do this. But if I want somebody to edit and upload the video, if I want to hire somebody to do that, I can do it because I can teach them how to do it. It doesn't require that much talent. Do you understand? But making a video requires talent. If you're a basketball player, you can't hire somebody to go to the gym and shoot 100 jump shots. You got to do that part. But if you need somebody to What's something I can think of? You need your clothes washed. You can hire somebody to wash your clothes. Take your dirty clothes to the laundromat. Pay them $12, and they'll wash your clothes for you. You just go pick them up. You don't have to sit in the laundromat and wash your clothes. You understand what I'm saying? So it's not necessarily meaning an employee. It just means use your money to buy yourself time. Understand that time is more valuable than money. So you will spend money to get time. Don't waste too much time trying to get money. Now, that's a whole different conversation, but just understand the semantics of what I'm saying. Use your money to buy yourself time, because time is more important. Procrastination is not about money. Procrastination is about time, because time runs out. Money can run out, you get more money back. You understand? When time runs out, you can't get time back. You can never get November 15, 2015 back ever again in your life. But if you lose $20 right now, if $20 fell out your pocket while you was getting off the bus, you can make $20 back within the next 5 minutes if you wanted to, but you can't make 20 minutes back. You understand that? So those are the 3 things you need to do to get rid of procrastination. Have I helped anybody with these tips? Is this useful to anybody? If it's useful, please tap the screen with the hearts and let me know in the comments if this is useful. If there's something that I left out as far as procrastination, let me know and I'll address it right here on video. Shout out to everybody watching this on replay, everybody on Periscope right now, anybody watching on YouTube. If you watch me for the first time, understand that this is not a once in a lifetime thing. I'm not a one-hit wonder here. I do this all the time. So make sure you're following me so you catch all these topics. Is there anything that I didn't cover when it comes to procrastination? Tom asking me, am I still looking for an assistant? I'm always looking for assistants. It just depends on the skills that person has and whether I can work with them or not. Are there any topics as far as procrastination that I can address? Anything that I didn't talk about here? Anything that you're having a challenge with procrastination that I have not addressed in this video? Do I think technology is an issue for procrastinating? Not really. That's really relative to the person. It's relative to the person. How to fight over the hump. That's number 3, Trey Tom, the action habit. The action habit. And also when my TED Talk video comes out, I talk about that, getting over the hump of like when you're not really that motivated anymore. I talk about that. It'll be about 4 weeks before that video comes out. Somebody asked me that earlier. Not here, but somewhere else. But that video is about 4 weeks away. How do you get rid of distractions that lead to procrastination? You prioritize. Prioritize what's important to you. And if those things are actually important, you won't have a distraction because you're paying so much attention to what's important. Exactly. KHCO, you got it. When you prioritize things, they're priorities. If something's a priority, there's no distraction because you're paying so much attention to it. That's what priority means. Any other questions I can answer when it comes to procrastination, when it comes to getting yourself in an action habit? I say 21 days to make a habit. If I prioritize, will things cut out? Will there be things cut out I want to make a habit? What do you mean by that? Can you be more specific with that question? 21 days does make a habit. So you heard 66. Okay, hey, do it for 66 days. That's even better. Then that's damn near 3 times. That's more than 3 times as much. You'll ingrain the habit even stronger. Do it for 66. Whatever days you heard. If you heard it was 21, 30, 50, 1,000, do it for 1,000. Definitely do it as much as you can. JDC, I appreciate that. How do you prioritize writing them out? How? You decide what's most important to you. That's simple. So if you got a list of 10 things, you need to go through all 10 and you had to order them 1 through 10. Number 1 is most important. Number 2, second most. Number 3, third most. You got to figure out what's the most important thing to you. Nobody else can tell you what's important to you. You prioritize the 10. If you got 10, do it 1 through 10. You put number 1 next to number 1 thing, number 2 things, and do all that. How many snapbacks do I own? I don't think that has anything to do with priorities and procrastination. Can I answer any more questions about procrastination? How many lists do I have? I just explained it to you. Every day there's a list, and then you got a list of things that's not priorities. What's going on, Accrual 76? Good to see you. What's up to everybody in Cleveland? Any other questions that I can address about procrastination, about getting yourself in an action habit, about prioritizing, about not giving yourself too many choices? Because we know that when people have too many choices, they don't do anything. Too many choices leads to people doing nothing because they call it paralysis by analysis. You just got too many things to analyze and you paralyze yourself because you're trying to think of which one to start with. How'd you know you have a chance in basketball? That's a different scope, Trey Time, but hold that question for when I'm talking about that. I'll address it. What if your number 1 thing takes longer than your number 2 or 3? Should 2 and 3 be 1 and 2 and 1 should be 3? It depends on which one's the most important. It's not really about how long it takes. It depends on how important it is. Now, if you think number 1 can take you all day, then have 1 priority. You understand? So if you think your number 1 thing might be an all-day task, then that should be your number one thing all day for that day. Now, if you think you get one done and have time, then you can add 2, 3, 4. You make a habit out of something if you do it every other day. If you haven't been already doing it every other day, I don't think so. I think you would make a habit by doing 21 straight days. Do you have 2 lists? What are your 2 lists, Po Man Tyrone? What distractions did you deal with when you were younger? I don't think that's really that's not a relevant question. Po Man Tyrone, what are the 2 lists that you were asking me about? Or that you mentioned, rather. He said he has 2 lists. The 2 lists that I mentioned are the priority list for that day, and then everything else that was on the list that's not priority, you just bunch them all into another list that's when I get to it list. Now that list could be 10 things, it could be 1,000 things, but if they're not priorities, they're not priorities. And when you get to them, you get to them. So when you have extra time after your priorities are taken care of, do you understand? Then you'll have time to get to your stuff. I'm waiting on, I asked Po Man Tyrone, okay, he said first list, make beats, write songs, play piano, freestyle, 2 hours. All right, so what's the question? What's the question that you're asking, Po Man Tyrone? Is there's not enough time in the day to do all that stuff? What are you saying what's the challenge with that list? I see the list, but what's the challenge with getting that done? Anybody else got a question about getting rid of procrastination, priorities? Leave it right now. I'm not staying in this scope for more than 3 more minutes, then this one's going to wrap up. Any questions when it comes to priorities? You want to make all of these things a habit, then do it. What's stopping you? D Nice, what's going on both lists? What do you mean both lists? What's the second list? So I'm distracted with technology. Should I delete everything? That's a decision that you got to make. It's not for me to tell you what you should do. It's for you to think about, take the information, think, and apply. I'm not a person who comes and tells people exactly what they should do. I'm going to give you information that I know works from my experience, and then you take that information and you apply it to what you're doing in a way that works for you. So that's empowerment there. I empower people to be able to take information, think, and use it. Not me just tell you what to do and you do it like a robot, because that's not empowering you, because then you got to come right back to me the next time for me to tell you what to do again. I want to empower you so that you can start making these decisions for yourself based on information that you may not have otherwise had. You understand? That's what empowerment means. It doesn't mean me just giving you all the answers. All right, Tom, you got to stop with the irrelevant questions. We're going to have to get rid of you. All right, Po Man says, second list, write 20 punchlines, write 20 ideas, record 2 hours, and read for an hour. Well, Po Man, what you need to do is give yourself time limits to knock out each thing. So whatever things you got to do, instead of it being do this thing as long as it takes, give yourself, all right, I got 20 minutes to do this, 20 minutes for this, 20 minutes for this, in a way that it fits into your daily schedule. So give yourself a time limit instead of an activity limit. So instead of saying I need to write 20 punchlines, say I got 30 minutes to write 20 punchlines. And if 30 minutes goes up and you haven't done 20, then you got to move on to the next thing. Now you got to get better at it so that you get them done. What are my thoughts on rest days? Ask me a better question. I'm doing great. Somebody said I exemplify critical thinking. I don't know who that was, but thank you. I appreciate that comment. All right, Po Man, I'm glad that helped you. All right, so we wrapping this one up right now, y'all. I know some of you had other questions that might not have been relevant to this topic. Whenever I come out with that topic, I will address it because y'all know we do Periscope all the time here. So make sure y'all follow me if you're not already. Also on Twitter, my Facebook is /workonyourgame. My website is dreallday.com. I appreciate that, everybody. We out of here. Work on your game. Dre all day. Thanks for watching this video. I'm sure you were entertained. Make sure to stay connected with me on all your favorite social networks. Twitter and Periscope at Dre all day. Instagram, Dre Baldwin. Facebook /workonyourgame. You can bookmark my YouTube channel by subscribing, of course. And the website is workonyourgame. That's .me. Workonyourga.me. And of course, my homepage is my website, dreallday.com, so you can know exactly what I'm doing, exactly when I'm doing it, and how you might be able to be involved. Work on your game.